I'll share my screen.
Yeah, please.
I hope everybody can see the screen now. I'll make it full screen. Okay, legal provisions for women with disabilities in India. So women and girls in India constitute 44% of the total population of the disabilities, while equal access of persons with disability to rights and
ये PowerPoint up down नहीं हो रहा, मतलब कि वो change नहीं हुआ.
Change नहीं हुआ. अभी हुआ होगा.
हाँ, अब हुआ. And you can make it now. You can make it the full screen, sir.
सर, मैं एक बार ट्राई करके देख लेता हूँ. अभी नेक्स्ट हुआ.
नेक्स्ट स्लाइड नंबर 2 पर है सर.
स्लाइड नंबर 3 कर दिया मैंने तो यहाँ पर.
नहीं हुआ. आपने साथ कंप्यूटर में जो किया है ना उसको कर रहे हैं.
क्या है, ऐसे भी चलेगा ना.
ठीक है सर. ठीक है.
तो यहाँ पर equal access and persons with disabilities to rights and services remains a challenge in India. Women with disability encounter additional prejudice, discrimination, neglect, violence, and exclusion that hinders their rights of employment. Then, according to Census 2011, women with disability constitute 54% of the illiterate population in India. Only 23% women with disabilities are working as opposed 40% with disabilities. Now, what is the provision in law? Provision is defined as the supply of something or the act of providing supply of something. The next is example of provision is food you take, you like, or you hide. Provision when legal aid is provided, legal advice is provided, providing, preparing, or supplying of something. So this is what when we talk of provision. So provision किसी तरह का भी हो सकता है. It can be anything. It can be legal advice. It can be legal help. It can be food. It can be anything. Then the enactment of Rights of Persons with Disability Act 2016, the Erstwhile Persons with Disability Equal Opportunity Act, Protection of Rights and Full Participation Act 1995, contain no specific reference to women with disabilities. The National Policy of Persons with Disability 2006 recognize the vulnerability of women with disabilities to exploitation, abuse, proposed educational programs, employment, rehabilitation services, household support, and financial support for child care. However, these clauses largely remained on paper, which I told you yesterday also. Then the RPD Act is an omnibus legislation that addresses discrimination, violence, recognizes civil and political as well as economic and social cultural rights, provided for monitoring authority and special courts to try offenses against persons with disabilities. Then another legislation followed that addresses to the rights of persons with mental illness. The Mental Health Care Act 2017, which reflects a right-based approach towards persons with mental illness, providing mental health care and services for persons with mental illness, and seeks to protect, promote, and fulfill the rights of such persons during delivery of mental health care services. The RPD Bill 2016 did not contain a separate provision for women with disability or children, but this changed after the Standing Committee on Social Justice and Empowerment recommended it because of the multiple discrimination faced by women, vulnerability, and children in their distinct recognition under the UNC RPD. Section 4 was thus included in the RPD Act, obligation the appropriate government and local authorities to take measures to ensure that women and children with disability enjoy their rights and equality with others. This was talked about by Dharyalji yesterday also. Dharyalji have talked already about this. So I am just giving you further details regarding the provisions in different acts. The RPD Act 2016 addresses discrimination, violence, recognized, and this is mentioned there in the preamble. Recognizing civil and political as well as economic and social cultural rights, provides for a monitoring authority of special courts to try offenses against persons with disabilities. The next is the preamble of the RPD Act refers to 8 general principles under Article 3 UNCRPD, which are central to the full realization of rights of women and girls with disabilities to equal and non-discrimination. They are: number 1, respect for inherent dignity, individual autonomy, include the freedom to make one's own choice, interdependence of persons, non-discrimination, full and effective participation and inclusion in society. D, respect for different and acceptance of persons with disability as a part of human diversity and humanity. Respect for difference and acceptance. ये हो गया. E is the equality of opportunities, accessibilities, equality between men and women. And last में कहा उन्होंने respect for evolving capacities of children with disabilities and respect to the rights of children with disabilities to preserve their identity. Now, the two legislations are largely anchored in a right-based approach to disability and have dismantled the medical welfare approach to the persons with disabilities. Now, the two are only the two acts, the UNCRPD as well as the RPD Act. They are right-based and social model. Medical model को थोड़ा सा उन्होंने बाहर कर दिया है. Medical model has been avoided. The article unpack the rights of women with disabilities to equality, non-discrimination, protection from violence, reproductive rights. Under these three legislations, examinees are extent to which they comply and guarantee under the UNCRPD. Section 3 of the RPD Act encapsulates the right to equality and prohibits discrimination based on disability. Then Section 3.1 of the RPD Act obligates the appropriate government to ensure that persons with disability enjoy the right to equality, life with dignity and respect for his or integrity equally with others. Section 13.2 of the RPD Act recognizes that right of PWD to enjoy legal capacity on equal basis with others and to the right to equal recognition everywhere as any person before the law. Section 20.1 RPD Act prohibits discrimination in employment and in government establishments. Government establishments should provide reasonable accommodation and appropriate barrier-free, conducive environment to the employees with disabilities. The rank of persons cannot be reduced or person cannot be dispensed with if they acquire a disability during the service. Now, it contains two things. Now, if a person is with disabilities, we cannot discriminate him. And if I am a non-disabled person and working, I acquire a disability, so they cannot lower my post. They have to keep me on the same post. So this provision is there in the RPD Act. Then Section 21 of the Mental Health Act recognizes that the rights of persons with mental health to be treated as equal to persons with physical illness in the provision of the health care. The list provides grounds of discrimination under the Mental Health Act fairly comprehensive. It includes gender, sex, sexual orientation, religion, culture, caste, social and political benefits, class or disability. All persons are entitled to access to mental health care that is affordable quantity, geographically accessible, without discrimination based on prohibited grounds. Section 3(3)(b) of the Mental Health Act prohibits mental health being determined based on non-conformity with moral, social, cultural work or political values or religious belief prevailing in a person's community. Discrimination in relation to disability means any distinction and exclusion, restriction on the basis of disability which the purpose or effect of impairing or nullifying the recognition, enjoyment of or exercise on an equal basis with others of all human rights and fundamental freedom in the political, economic, social, cultural, civil, and any other field, and include all forms of discrimination and denial of regional accommodation. Article 3 of the UNCRPD includes non-discrimination, equality of opportunity, and equality between men and women, a general principle of the convention in absolute terms, and does not provide for any exceptions. Now, to promote reasonable accommodation says to promote equality and eliminate discrimination, states are mandated under Article 5.3 UNCRPT to take all appropriate steps to ensure that reasonable accommodation is provided. Now, here I will not discuss what do you mean by reasonable accommodation, because you all know better about regional accommodation than what I know. It entails that necessary and appropriate modification and adjustment, not imposing disproportionate or undue burden where needed in a particular case to ensure to person with disability that enjoyment or exercise on equal basis with others, all human rights and fundamental freedom. The concept of regional accommodation is recognized in the RPD Act. Its states are obligated under UNCRPD to provide regional accommodation to promote equality and non-discrimination, especially in matters related to the deprivation of liberty, education, and work and employment. Under RPD Act, regional accommodation should be ensured in educational institutions funded or recognized by the government or local authorities and the government establishment. Access to any scheme, program, facility or services offered by the National Legal Service Authority and States Legal Service Authority should also be ensured. This would require the state legal services authorities, for instance, to ensure that women with disabilities who are victim of offense are able to access legal aid and compensation. Article 4E of the UNCRPT required state parties to take all appropriate measures to eliminate discrimination on the basis of disability by any persons, organization, or enterprise, if thus envisaged, says horizontal application of the provision on discrimination. The RPD Act provides only for a vertical application of the rights to equality. Section 3.1 of the RPD Act requires the appropriate government to ensure that the person with disability enjoy the rights to equality, life with dignity, and respect for his or her integrity equally with others by casting the obligation squarely on the government. Private entities are not bound to adhere to the provision or provide reasonable accommodation. So here only it's limited to the government sector only, not the private sector had not been covered by the RPD Act. Now, Section 37 requires the appropriate government and local authorities to develop special schemes and develop programs for PWDs. Clause B requires them to accordingly priority to women with benchmark while framing such schemes, provide 5% reservations in the allotment of agricultural land, housing, poverty alleviation, and developmental schemes. And Section 24 and 37 of the RPD Act are examples of positive measures that also seeks to promote de facto equality, special for women with disability. Section 24(2) requires gender to be considered among other factors when social security schemes and programs are developed. Section 24(3)(d) expressly requires the scheme to provide support to women with disability for livelihood and for upbringing their children. Similarly, Section 18.18 within bracket 7 of the Mental Health Act 2017 entails persons with mental illness below the poverty line to free mental health treatment and services at establishment run and funded or designated by the government. The provision can benefit a large number of women who are homeless, found wandering, or thrown out of their houses because of their illness. The UNCRPD does not make any express reference to sexual violence in Article 16, but does allude that gender-based aspect of exploitation, violence, and abuse. Apart from the RPD Act, the Protection of Children from Sexual Offense Act 2012, POXO Act, a special legislation enacted to protect children from sexual assault, sexual harassment, and pornography, especially recognize the vulnerability of children with disability to sexual violence. The Criminal Law Amended Act 2013, passed in the wake of Delhi gang rape case, also introduced several changes in the substantive procedural and evidence law relevant to the sexual offense against women, many of which have a bearing on women with disability. Disability is considered an aggravating factor for offenses committed under the Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children Act 2015, JJ Act 2015, of which the Madam Shruti Kakkar Madam talked yesterday. Under Section 85 of JJ Act 2015, if offence under the Act are committed against children certified to be disabled by a medical practitioner, they will attack twice the penalty provided for the offence. The relevant provisions of the Indian Penal Code 1860 IPC and the POCSO Act 2012 are as follows. Commission of rape of a woman suffering from mental or physical disability constitute aggravated rape under Section 376(2)(1) of the IPC. If the woman is in a pregnant vegetative state because of the rape or aggravated rape, it is an offence punishable under the Section 376A IPC with a minimum term of 20 years. Rigorous imprisonment can extend to the life imprisonment, that is imprisonment for the remainder of the person's natural life or death. This provision was introduced through the Criminal Law Amendment Act 2013. Penetrative sexual assault or sexual assault by taking advantage of the child's mental or physical disability constitute aggravated penetrative sexual assault under Section 5K of the POCSO Act and aggravated sexual assault under the Section 9K of the POCSO Act respectively. The penetrative sexual assault or sexual assault resulting in physical incapacitation, mental illness or impairment which temporarily or permanently renders the child unable to perform regular tasks, it would amount to aggravated penetrative sexual assault under Section 5J1 and aggravated sexual assault under Section 9J1 of the POCSO Act. Penal provisions in the RPD Act recognizes specifically certain sexual offense against women with disability. Section 92 criminalizes assault to use of force on a woman with disability with intention to outrage its modesty. 61. Sexual exploitation of the woman or child with disability by a person in a position to dominate their will, performing, conducting or directing any medical procedure or lead that leads or is likely to lead to a termination of pregnancy of women with disability without her expressed consent. Termination done in case of severe disability and based on opinion of a registered medical practitioner and consent of the guardian of the PWD are exempted in 63. Then the above offences are punishable with a fine, minimum term of 6 months imprisonment and which can be extended to 5 years. The Mental Act does not separately recognize the vulnerability of women with mental illness and violence. Section 22K provides the rights of persons with mental illness living in mental health establishment to be protected from all physical, verbal, emotional, and sexual abuse. An interpreter or special educator would be present during the recording of the information, and recording should be videographed. A woman or a person with mental or physical disability can be summoned to the police station, cannot be summoned to the police station. Under the POCSO Act 2012, the police magistrate and special court can take the assistance of a special educator or a person familiar with the manner of communication of the child with physical or mental disability or a qualified, experienced expert to record the child's statement or evidence. The inclusion of persons familiar with the child's manner of communication was deliberated in the light of the absence of standardized special education facilities and the possibility of children may not be able to communicate through any expert or special educator. The statement of persons who is temporarily or permanently mentally or physically disabled should be recorded by a magistrate with the assistance of an interpreter or a special educator and should be videographed. In a significant departure from the standard criminal procedure, the statement has to be considered as the statement in lieu of the examination in chief, and the woman or girl with disability cannot be cross-examined on this basis. तो उनको एक ही बार स्टेटमेंट देना और एक ही बार एग्जामिनेशन होना है कि बार बार हम उनको बुला करके एग्जामिनेशन नहीं कर सकते हैं. There is a very clear cut provision in the POCSO Act. In other words, the statement will not have to be repeated before the trial court. However, the implementation of the provision has been trendy, as many courts lack audiovisual facilities or capacity to use such equipment. So the court has to make arrangements for the audiovisual facilities. The child cannot be, the girl with disabilities cannot be called again to the court to deliberate or to give the statement. So thank you very much. Any questions? Thank you very much for the patience. Other time नहीं लिया मैंने.
Great, sir. Thank you. Great presentation, sir. You have given the whole idea about the act. कि कहाँ क्या चीज है, पूरा एकदम elaborated हो गया. Great. Anybody has any comments or any suggestions or anything? Please come forward. Hello. Yes. Yeah, Namrata madam.
सर ने कल के पूरे सेशन को एकदम समराइज कर दिया ये अपने पूरे पीपीटी के अंदर. बहुत अच्छा.
Thank you very much.